It has been a while since we had you here, and lots has happened in the interim. Of course, we had 2 years really disrupted by the pandemic. I expect that this year will also be interrupted as we still try to figure out how to make this a part of our normal lives, I guess. But let's start with just what your approach is as we get closer to the opening of this year. You're somebody who has said unequivocally that the best situation for kids in our district in Detroit is for them to be in school all the time. Of course, we can't necessarily mandate that at this point, but tell me how close you think we're going to be able to get, even as we see this recent surge in COVID-19 cases.
Sure, and as you said, I think most of us would agree the best situation for our students in Detroit is in person. There's just a relationship connection there that can build in the trust. Reteaching, small group instruction, because a lot of our students are below where they should be. But obviously, anytime the infection rates are too high, then we have to suspend it. And I think over the last year and a half, we've done that. So we've been about equity and equity of access, meaning if private schools are open and suburban school districts are open, so should we, providing in-person learning, because that is about equity. But being very cautious and listening to medical experts when the infection rates are too high and not moving forward with in-person learning. But I'm very excited about the fall. I am worried about the rising infection rates. They're not as high in the city, in Michigan as they are, let's say, in the South right now. But I'm worried. But at the same time, I'm optimistic and I'm excited. Excited and optimistic for a couple reasons. One, our teachers are back across the district. So every school, every classroom, every subject area, our teachers will be back in person. That was an agreement that we made with the Detroit Federation of Teachers. I'm also excited because we have additional funding. And so for the first time, in over 20 years as a, teacher, principal, chief academic officer, superintendent, always in large urban school districts, I feel like for at least 2 years, we have equitable amount of resources to address some of the wraparound challenges that we have with our students and families. So we're going to be able to go much deeper with mental health support in the fall with tier 2, tier 3 intervention. That means small group one-on-one. We're going to have a nurse at every one of our buildings. This past summer, we expanded summer school. We had 10,000 students participate in person in summer school, but it wasn't just academic summer school. It was art, it was music, it was athletics. We're going to be able to hire more teachers. We're going to be fully staffed in the fall. Every teacher vacancy is filled, and we've hired over 100 more teachers to reduce class size. We're going to be able to offer after-school programming in every school this fall and for the next 2 years. We're adding vans, district vans, to pick up students if they miss the initial bus, don't walk to school, don't take the city bus. So, this year for us is a year of recovery. We have to make up on learning loss. We got to get kids back in learning in the regular process. And so that's our focus. But I feel like we can do this now in a much harder space and time, but with the resources to actually do that. The last reason why I'm optimistic and excited is that our families are ready to send their children back. Right now our polling looks at 80 to 95% of parents are ready to send their children back to school. Wow. I think our number or our percentage of students that want virtual school will always be higher than suburban districts and rural districts, and we have a separate virtual school for that. But I'm excited. And, from a COVID perspective, we're always going to be more conservative, if you will, about the safety strategies. And we've always been aligned to the CDC, always been aligned to state guidelines. So all of our students, employees, vaccinated or not, will wear masks. We're going to do the deep cleaning, 3 feet of social distance. And I think the big difference in DPSCD will be testing. All of our employees, all of our students will test, vaccinated or not. So, we can identify asymptomatic cases. We can identify outbreaks that have not been identified. And we can talk about an infection rate beyond the city rate or even the county rate, the state rate, based on actual infection rates at individual schools and districts. We started testing in the spring, and our infection rate numbers have been less than 1%. In fact, it's been about 0.001 or 0% different weeks. So I've always been saying, I think our students and our employees are actually safer in DPSCD buildings than they are out in the greater society, because in the greater society, everyone's not vaccinated, everyone's not wearing masks, and you don't have a testing process. So I'm excited for the fall.
Yeah. So how flexible do you think you have to be about all of these things? The idea of in-person schooling, the idea of maybe further kinds of restrictions. Is this a better situation than we started with at the beginning of last year, or are we still in the same place?
Well, I think we're definitely in a better place than we were last fall, for a couple of reasons. One, we ran schools for a year, with the COVID challenge. Now, we had anywhere from 10 to 12,000 students back at that time, and we're looking at probably 40 to 45,000 students back. So the scale will be different, but we did learn how to, identify positive cases, quarantine, identify close contacts. So that's just having done it, I think, is going to make us this year easier. But we have the vaccine, obviously, which changes the conversation from an absolute risk point of view. 70% of our employees are vaccinated, which is, you want to get to that 70% level. So I feel good there. I don't feel completely satisfied, because I want that to be 100%. We're not ready to mandate it, but we're continuing to promote it, create awareness for greater vaccination rates. I think what's also different, obviously, is our teachers are back. There were a lot of students that actually wanted to come back last year, but said, if I have my schedule of 6 classes at the high school level and only 2 of my teachers are coming back, I'm just going to stay online. Yeah. So that's what makes, I think, the fall different as well. So having done it, the opportunity to be vaccinated for our employees and our older students, and then just having it done, doing it last year, I think and doing it well. Our union leaders will stand in front of a camera publicly and say the district did everything it could and should have done to keep us safe. I think that created a lot of credibility with our employees to come back, and that obviously trickles down to our families as well.
Yeah. So I want to talk a little about teachers. You do have a new collective bargaining agreement with teachers, but you also have, as you said, you've been able to fill all the vacancies in our schools, and that's something, as somebody who's, I've been around Detroit for 4 decades, 5 decades now. That has always been one of our big sort of speed bumps, is the idea that we can't attract enough teachers to get the ratios we want in classrooms and make sure that we're fully staffed. Talk about the difference that you think that makes.
Yeah, I've said it countless times. If we don't have a certified teacher in a classroom, we can't even talk about getting to high quality. It immediately starts there. You can have a great person who cares about the kids, a long-term sub, someone with a degree. They need to be certified, they need to be trained, and then we can start building capacity. But you can't even get off the finish line if you're not at that point. And I remember when I started as superintendent, and I started to talk at that point with the HR team, and the conversation was, we'll never be fully staffed in Detroit. Right when you told me that, I realized, wrong approach, wrong expectations. We got to move in a different direction with just how you think about your job. So, part of the work was honestly revamping HR with people that believed that we should and had to be fully staffed. So that was part of the process. I went through 2 reorgs to get to that point. And I definitely feel like we have the right people there. But then it was, pay matters. And, we can talk about climate and culture and support, and all of that does play a role. but ultimately it is about paying people, a competitive wage. So we've gone from, about 38,000 to 51,000 for beginning teacher salaries. And it wasn't only beginning teachers, but this is what it was. We were able to recruit from Detroit charter schools and from suburban school districts, many of those teachers who grew up in Detroit and left, to teach in the surrounding suburbs. So that was a major difference. And we've been able to retain our veteran teachers. So our top step has gone from about 68 now to about 76 at the top. And we've offered, bonuses in addition to that. We want to get to 80 in the next couple of years. And we're working with DFT on those, particulars. But, I think it's one, recruiting, it's pay. And then once we get them in, I do think people feel more supported when they get to their school with stronger principals, more principal training. And, I'm also excited that we're building our own bench. And so we're taking academic interventionists, para-educators, people that have four-year degrees that aren't certified, using master teachers that have been in the system to train them in the classroom. So we're actually thinking ahead also in building a bench so this can be sustainable, as we know our most veteran teachers will probably start to retire in the next 3 to 4 years. So we'll be well positioned to actually build our own people that know our kids, been in the classroom, know the challenges and the opportunities. And it's a very diverse group. And I'm excited about that. Where, by memory, I think 90% of the candidates that we're building to become teachers are of color. And there are many Black men in that cohort as well. And that's the other part of being intentional about, matching the needs of our students with our teachers.
Yeah. I should correct myself. It's not a full collective bargaining agreement that you reach. It's an agreement about safety protocols and COVID.
Yeah, reopening of schools.
Yeah, but it makes a big difference in terms of, I think, just the outlook that teachers have, that they're being kept safe and that the kids are also being looked after. Quickly, I want to ask you about the money coming from the federal government, an unprecedented amount of money, both to the city and to the school district, and what you want to do with that money and what difference you think that's going to make for our kids.
Yeah, so that is primarily focused on recovery. So this is how we're going to expand mental health support throughout the district. We expanded summer school this past summer and the upcoming summer. We're hiring teachers in surplus. So, we have an allocation plan where we're fully staffed on the teacher side of staffing, but we're hiring more teachers to reduce class size, to maintain social distancing, and to anticipate the retirements that are going to come in the next couple of years. We're using the money for home visits, which has been very successful. So we did that throughout the year, but since school ended, 30,000 home visits have happened. So we're canvassing throughout the city to knock on doors for DPSCD parents and even non-DPSCD parents about DPSCD. These are principals, teachers, central office staff, just, meeting one-on-one with families to talk about their school or a potential school. In addition to that, we're going to be able to continue to go one-to-one with our laptops, internet access, and probably, not directly linked to recovery, but probably one of the greatest long-standing issues we have in DPSCD is our facilities. So about 600 to 800 million of that 1.2 billion that we're going to receive is going to attack our facility issue. So we were having a lot of community engagements before the pandemic hit about just how funding works, the legacy debt with the operating debt and the bond. And it was clear that we were probably moving in a direction to do another DPSCD bond, which was going to be a hard hill to climb. But now with this funding, we don't have to go to the taxpayers. We don't have to raise taxes, and we can put a major dent in our facility. So by January, we'll have a 20-year facility plan, which will be a blueprint set of recommendations on how to deal with buildings like Pershing, Osborne, and Cody that need substantial work, but which the size of the school is not needed, the number of seats. So we're going to engage a community by feeder pattern. Do you agree with the plan? Do you disagree? Should we renovate? Should we build new buildings? Do we consolidate? And the whole conversation is not how we take away, but how do we give back something better, and not to replicate what I call the sins of emergency management in the past. Truly engage people, know that there is a finite amount of money, but how do we best use it? And then take that back to the school board and then create a 20-year facility plan and start making major investments in our facility. So we get to a point where all of our schools have air conditioning, reliable HVAC systems, roofs, masonry work, fencing around parking lots, upgraded IT. But it's going to take us, about 2 to 5 years to get to that full implementation. But by the end of this school year, we will have a 20-year facility plan with funding connected to it.
Yeah. Okay, Dr. Nikolai Vitti, it's always great to talk to you, and it's always exciting this time of year, thinking about the opening of schools. Good luck with everything, and thanks for joining us on American Black Journal.
Always good to talk to you. Thank you.